You're full of shit.
Yes.
That's all it says? Why do they need so many pictures for that? What about Pro? Oh, no, that's fine. I get it. You don't read English.
I don't read English. I get Chinese.
This video is brought to you by Privacy.com. Get a brand new virtual credit card number every time up with Privacy. Check out the link below and get $5 off your first purchase. It's basically free money. If anyone likes free money, it's Dennis.
Yes. Give me all the free money.
All right. So this is Honor Smart TV Pro. Or so Dennis claims.
So they only sell this in China for now, right?
No, ever, as far as we know. Oh. Okay, this is all pretty visual.
Yeah,
I think I can figure this out. Got that composite cable included.
I got
Nice.
I got the stand, but how come it looks kind of tilt?
Probably because it goes like that.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, weird. The power plug doesn't have the holes. So I guess that means it doesn't work with locking extension cords and stuff. Okay, it's kind of Apple remote, but like cheaper and plasticer.
But wait, it has Honor Magic Link with NFC chip.
Okay, so what does that do?
So I think you can tap this thing, and then they will connect your phone to the TV.
Do you want to install that on your phone?
Huawei not.
Did you just say Huawei not? This one is a 55-inch model, so I just...
But wait, it has Honor Magic Link with NFC chip.
Okay, so what does that do?
So I think you can tap this thing, and then they will connect your phone to the TV.
Do you want to install that on your phone?
Huawei not.
Did you just say Huawei not? This one is a 55-inch model, so I just wanted to kind of show the design on the back. It's actually kind of an interesting shape, and the I/O is weird. So the power goes in here, which I can't think of a good reason to do that beyond like cost-saving measure, because like the power supply happens to be here. No vase mount, except that there's like, oh yeah, no, it is a vase mount. So you just gotta maybe put a pin in it and then like pop it out. So that's where we put the stand. Oh, that's kind of nice. It has a little cover for where the stand goes if you want to wall mount it.
Oh, that's the button on and off.
Oh, so it's just like an accent light. Yeah, okay, cool. Oh, okay, there we go. So what do we got here? 3 HDMIs, USB 3, Ethernet, coax, I guess. Oh, it's kind of a different connector than I'm used to seeing for it. And then that's a 3.5mm jack. What is that though? It's for that composite video adapter. This guy right here. Okay, cool. We can see the integrated speakers through the grill down here. So I've got 3 on this side, another 3 on that side.
Whoa. Do you have a Huawei account?
Actually, these are just all the built-in movie platforms. That's why, here, can I borrow this for a second? Yeah. That's why we're actually seeing a lot of the same movies from one to another.
Yeah, and this is Cool Meow, I guess different platform. And this is Mango TV.
Mango TV, is that's
this? Is Mango TV.
What's Mango TV?
So Mango TV is like one of the mainland television.
We've only seen the beginning of what seems to be a global event.
As we are hearing, this is happening in a number of locations all over the world. Unofficial observations seem to be pointing in the same direction, that individuals from the past appear...
I used to think that my life was a trap.
He said, what?
first magical drop was developed and released in 1985. For some reason, Data East decided to call it Chain Reaction for the overseas arcade release. The aim of the game is quite like all other puzzle games of this type. Line up 3 or more of the same item, then make them disappear. The difference in this game is that you can pull down items, then throw them back up to a different location. This may not sound like such a big deal, but it does actually ramp up the thinking level of the game, and in turn, make it more exciting to play than many other games of this type. First up on Battle of the Ports is the Super Famicom release. This port is almost faithful to the arcade version. However, the playing field size is smaller due to the resolution of the Super Famicom, and we also have a choice of different items to be dropped down. In addition, no quarter for clearing a stage is required. Another nice change that I like is that the clown no longer handles the drops. That has been replaced by the actual character you choose, which in my opinion makes much more sense. In addition to the normal 1 and 2 player modes, the Super Famicom version also has a puzzle mode for that extra little something which home ports need. The second version we're taking a look at is for the Sega Saturn. This port is identical to the Super Famicom game in terms of game options and game modes, but now it features all new pre-rendered sprites. It also features an A and B BGM mode, although playing the game with either mode doesn't seem to change anything at first. However, I did notice that some voice samples are from the arcade original, while others are new. The PlayStation version is exactly the same as the Saturn version, But now with longer initial loading and an annoying screen that pops up now and then, asking the actual character you choose, which in my opinion makes much more sense.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I don't know if you have kids. I have a daughter. She's 10 years old. According to the latest science, by the time she is 22, the planet will have tipped over into an ecological and civilizational catastrophe, the likes of which has never before been seen in human history. I cannot accept this as the future for this world and for my daughter. So I must ask you, my friends, please unbend me. Please make the necessary sacrifices to save the world and save the future and save my daughter and yours, I assume, as well. Now, we in the West have been doing our part to a large degree, right? We have reduced carbon emissions significantly, and we're having fewer and fewer children, as is the case in Japan, which means that our overall CO2 emissions are going down. But really, I must ask you, what on earth is the point of having fewer and fewer babies and lowering our carbon emissions if governments continue to bring millions and millions and millions of people in to high carbon footprint countries? Poorer countries have lower carbon footprints. They use fewer of nature's scarce resources. We're doing our part by having fewer children. There's no point to it at all if we just replace the missing children with mass migration from low carbon footprint countries to very high carbon footprint countries. It is not sustainable. It is not possible. The Earth cannot take this massive experiment in human engineering. When people end up using 10 to 20 times the amount of energy and producing 10 to 20 times the amount of CO2 because they've moved from a third world country to a first world country, the planet cannot take it. The planet cannot take it. I know. The right wing wants cheap labor. The left wing wants immigrant votes, but we must put our partisan differences aside and stop mass migration to save literally the world. Everybody stays home and we all get to live.
I like.
Earlier today, I was scrolling down my wall on Minds.com and came across a YouTube video of a Black Rhodesian war veteran begging whites to come back to help rebuild Zimbabwe now that Mugabe is gone. Well, allow me to offer this very simple reply. No. Whites built Rhodesia on previously unoccupied territory. After they had created civilization in that geographical locale, blacks moved into it because there they could have access to industrial farming and food production, education, medical treatment, roads, trade, jobs, and nearly all of the infrastructure of a first world nation, which Rhodesia was on the cusp of becoming. As soon as blacks had moved in great enough numbers, they decided to take over what whites had built, seizing the country of Rhodesia and renaming it Zimbabwe. Whites stayed. They owned land. They worked and operated right alongside blacks in Zimbabwe. The farmland, under white control, not only produced enough food for the native Zimbabweans, but created a surplus. That surplus of food was not only a major economic boon to Zimbabwe, but was the principal source of food for much of Central Africa. Yet, that wasn't enough. So in June of 2014, Mugabe decided to push out the white farmers, not only expropriating their lands without compensation, but refusing to prosecute any murders of whites. By February of 2016, Zimbabwe was so devoid of food because they couldn't produce the harvests which the industrial white farmers had. Zimbabwe was begging the UN for $1.5 billion in aid to prevent mass starvation. Now hear this. You made your bed. You lay in it. Starve and die. After you're gone, whites will move back in, walking over your emaciated corpses and begin rebuilding the civilization which you took by force, but were not capable of maintaining. I suppose a more accurate statement would be, you dug your grave, you lay in it. Oh, don't worry, we'll be along shortly, to throw the dirt in. It's a courtesy we'll provide. We'll make sure you all get buried, and we'll even be kind enough to mark the graves. maybe even build a monument and hold ceremonies. You see, it's in white people's nature to care for others. That's why whites stayed and remained part of Zimbabwe even after the fall of Rhodesia. That's also why whites stayed till the bitter end, right up until Mugabe signed the order expropriating their property. They tried to stay as long as possible to save all of your worthless hides. They tried to remain as long as possible, producing the food which would sustain your existence. That is the nature of white people. There are, however, limitations to our altruism. Starve to death. Watch with eyes filled with tears as your children wither away in front of you. As the whites were forced to watch their families slaughtered by machete-wielding mobs and thugs, persecuted for the crime of sustaining your lives. Embrace your fate. You deserve nothing more. You did not speak out against the violence committed against the whites. You did not stand shoulder to shoulder with whites against the mobs who sought their blood. You have no moral authority. You have no ethical grounds. You have no right to ask or beg or plead for white people to come back and save you after you did nothing to save them from a reign of terror which saw their families brutally slaughtered like animals and the expropriation of their land which they had built and later maintained for the purpose of feeding your greedy mouths and your grumbling bellies, taken from them by official order. You dug your grave, you lay in it. And to South Africa, I say, look on Zimbabwe. Watch as they starve and die by means of a truly biblical famine. See your fate if you repeat their mistakes. You have been warned. You may not later cry, "We didn't know. Forgive us. Come back." Actions have consequences. You cannot avoid the law of causality forever. All debts will be paid, including debts of blood.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I don't know if you have kids. I have a daughter. She's 10 years old. According to the latest science, by the time she is 22, the planet will have tipped over into an ecological and civilizational catastrophe, the likes of which has never before been seen in human history. I cannot accept this as the future for this world and for my daughter. So I must ask you, my friends, please, on bended knee, please make the necessary sacrifices to save the world and save the future and save my daughter and yours, I assume, as well. Now, we in the West have been doing our part to a large degree, right? We have reduced carbon emissions significantly, and we're having fewer and fewer children, as is the case in Japan, which means that our overall CO2 emissions are going down. But really, I must ask you, what on earth is the point of having fewer and fewer babies and lowering our carbon emissions if governments continue to bring millions and millions and millions of people in to high carbon footprint countries? Poorer countries have lower carbon footprints. They use fewer of nature's scarce resources. We're doing our part by having fewer children. There's no point to it at all if we just replace the missing children with mass migration from low carbon footprint countries to very high carbon footprint countries. It is not sustainable. It is not possible. The Earth cannot take this massive experiment in human engineering. When people end up using 10 to 20 times the amount of energy and producing 10 to 20 times the amount of CO2 because they've moved from a third world country to a first world country, the planet cannot take it. The planet cannot take it. I know. The right wing wants cheap labor. The left wing wants immigrant votes, but we must put our partisan differences aside and stop mass migration to save literally the world. Everybody stays home and we all get to live.
Sorry, he makes some good points on presentation to reel in more people to our cause.
Okay,
so
I haven't seen it
yet. Right. No, I've not seen it yet.
Yeah.
Uploaded just a few days ago. I have to check that out. It's on Mark Collett's channel, so definitely check that out. Yeah, I'll take a look later. Thank you for the tip, Alfred. Appreciate that. All right, couple more here.
Okay.
You're like,
Okay.
all right. Double Dog says, the Geta video was amazing, but since she stopped aging 4 years ago and has been extremely stressed out, she must have been the ring. She must have had the ring from the Lord of the Rings. Why else would she? Why else would she distrust tricky hobbits? Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Is she aging? She is aging a little bit, but the point is, they took a girl which it actually has a mind of a 16-year-old, but she looks like she's 12 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She's so innocent and frail. How dare you make fun of her or say anything against her? Yeah,
it's all just done so that you can't criticize her, right? That's all. That's all it's about.
Well, and it fits perfectly with everything else the anti-whites do relative to children. It's all child abuse, especially when it comes to our white children. They want to parade them out as the opposite gender than they actually are. They want them to question their gender. They want to be able to give them drugs to change. Instead of, if you have a little boy that is a little effeminate and he perhaps biologically is underproducing testosterone, why not give him a little testosterone to make the man that he's meant to be?
Never.
No, they don't.
Hey all, Scott here, and tonight's the big homecoming dance. Not to brag or anything, but I'm gonna get laid. Hey all, Scott here, and tonight was the big night 7 years ago. Not to brag or anything, but I wish I got laid.
Yeah, I know what time of year it is. I've been to Target. Back to school season is in full swing, as in it's no longer back to school, it's just school. That means school dances are back, everybody. A collaboration between pop music, hormones, and wasting money. The school dance is defined as the concept of dimming the lights in a school gym, hiring an underpaid DJ to play Dear God anything below by Flow Rida, and forcing children to show up to a school at night and sweat for 3 hours. You'd reach for your nearest JCPenney dress shirt, pay $10 whole to stand in the school auditorium on the weekend, and assume that this was it. This was the night you totally experienced what it's like to score. And then you realized, oh yeah, I'm 15. I'll just stand and do nothing for most of the dance.
Yeah, these were great. And by great, I mean sweaty.
School dances started for me in middle school. These would be before the school football games and were labeled as casual dances. There were many looks I would go for with these dances, usually striking a balance between wearing a polo and jeans and pure fear. These weren't anything major at all. I wasn't expecting the world from these, but when high school came into the picture and dress shirts were involved, oh shit, it's happening. A few school dances,
Why, I would have...
I thought that.
Good things that you could.
What's up, everybody? I'm Sydney Goodman, and in today's Daily Fix, Spider-Man is back in the MCU. It's like the MCU keeps getting rid of Spider-Man and then bringing him back. We should be used to this by now. In case you missed it, that's right. Spidey is officially whipping his way back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
So
after
8BitDo may have
months of
lost it.
strife between Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures. Led by President Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios will produce a third film in the series, kicked off by Spider-Man: Homecoming. According to an official statement.
Been exposed,
It even has a
gang.
release date,
George
July
Soros
16th,
is in fact
2021. Sony Pictures producer Amy Pascal will also produce, as she did on Spider-Man: Homecoming and Far From Home. The news marks a dramatic turn after the Marvel-Sony relationship hit the skids over the summer. The two sides couldn't agree on the money for future Spidey movies, so the deal was dead until both sides ironed out the details Thursday night.